Hey guys, welcome to another YouTube video, and this is the final 2022 AFL season review video. I'll save this to the best till last. Obviously, I've done all 17 clubs except one, which of course is my team in the Essendon Football Club. So, where do I start? So, I'm going to start this off straight away. What an absolute bloody shit show. And just a warning to everybody, this is going to be the most fired up I've ever done in a video. So, and most passionate because I've been a fan, I've been a member and a fan of this footy club for since I was little, and I've never seen them win a final. So, that's why I'm being passionate about this. So, most passionate, most fired up I've ever been in a video. So, yeah. So 2021. So we'll start this off in 2021. So 2021. We weren't tipped to do much. We weren't tipped to make the finals. Because it was a bit of a transitional year. We added in Cox, Perkins, and Reed into our list, and it looked like it was going to be a lean year, but actually it wasn't. Rutten in his first full year in the job. Made some moves that worked. He moved Laverty into the back line, which that worked. Moved Parrish in the midfield, which that worked to spades. He was a top 5 contender in the Brownlow in 2021. And the club looked rejuvenated, it seemed to me as though this was the proper Ben Rutten game plan. Unlike the previous years in 2020. And we eventually got our way to finish in 8th position with an equal spread, 11 wins, 11 losses. Even though we did lose in the first final to the Western Bulldogs, we challenged them in the first half, but probably till a little bit in the third quarter, and then basically the last quarter they just absolutely killed us in the end. And we all thought that when we got eventually in the trade period that year, Jake Kelly, that we thought maybe these youngsters, and with the pressure of these youngsters, we could go to the next level. And we had high hopes for 2022. Even Mick Malthouse said we would win the flag. It was just unbelievable. Then, and we had this high hope of expectation leading into round 1. We thought, this is gonna be sweet as, and we'll see, and we'll take the next level. Get to round 1, we get beaten by 11 goals. An absolute fucking precursor to what was the rest of the year. And yeah, we we're just non-competitive in the end. We were just non-competitive. I had high hopes that we would recover it, but eventually we didn't. We went to halfway the arc of the season with only 2 wins to our name, and we were 15th or 16th on the ladder at that stage, which was 110% not where we wanted to be. We did sort of improved a little bit in the middle part of the year. We beat St Kilda, then we beat Sydney. We almost beat Collingwood, which I don't want to talk about that game because for obvious reasons. And then then obviously beat Gold Coast, who were in terrific form back then. So we improved dramatically. Then the last month of the season really changed things. Of course, the GWS game, I watched all of that game, and I was very, very, very disappointed. I was hoping for more from the boys, and they just did not turn up. And in the next week, thank God that was on pay TV, because I would have absolutely thrown me toys out of the cot, because yeah, and to see, watching the highlights of that game, I just felt sorry for my fellow Essendon supporters and members. I mean, just and we paid 80, and we had a record membership again. We had like 85,000 members, including myself and my pop as well. And then just to reward us, they reward us with this shit. It was just unbelievable, really. And it was poor, really. And then all the stuff with us getting Clarko, and then Paul Brasher resigning, and all that, and then all the continued stuff going on after the season ended. It was almost like a never ending. It was almost like this shit story that is never going to end. That was never going to end, but it's still to calm down a bit now until with Brad Scott now being at the helm. So yeah. So we stumbled across the line. So we crossed the 2022 season line with going from 8th place and a final in 2021, to 15th on the ladder with 7 wins to our name. It was only I can say is not fucking good enough, to be honest. So we'll get to the only highlight for me is the round 14 winning against St Kilda. It pretty much changed the complete. Well, we were still mediocre, but we were getting better after this game. And I'll get to it when I get to mark out of 10. I mean, this was our first real win of the season, by the way, and yeah, so it was just unbelievable, really, and the way they play, it was a very different Essendon. The way they played, it was they even when St Kilda challenged them in that third quarter, they brought it back to within a goal or something like that. I thought, oh, here we go again. But to their credit, they actually fought that storm and basically came back and won by about 6 goals, I think, in the end, which was amazing for the boys. So yeah, that is the highlight. The lowlights, I would have chosen many lowlights in this season. But the one that stood out for me was the Ben Rutten saga at the end of the season. I mean, the story was, of course, Paul Brasher, obviously. There was rumours swirling around that Clarko was Alistair Clarkson was hunting around to see what jobs he would get as coach in the AFL clubs. Essendon was, but one team that wasn't mentioned was Essendon, and because Paul Brasher and Xavier Campbell had committed to Ben Rutten. Then once everything started pulling apart, Paul Brasher resigned, and he was replaced by Dave Barham. And straight away, he had it out to basically one job and one job only: get rid of Ben Rutten and get in Alistair Clarkson, which, spoiler alert, failed like misery. Failed like misery, and yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. I think it was the right decision to sack Ben Rutten, because it wasn't progressing them, and it wasn't the improvement that we thought. It wasn't the best move, I believe. It was the best move, I believe, for them, because obviously they needed to fix this Essendon mediocrity, I call it, which has been going on for years and years and years, going on for way too long. and something needed to happen, and it was the coach that needed to get sacked. So that's why. Don't get me wrong. I think it was a good decision by Dave Barham to sack Ben Rutten, but the way he went about it in basically trying to get Clarko behind Rutten, basically, in my opinion, behind Rutten's back, I just did not like it at all. And the way they sacked him 24 hours after the last game against Richmond, I just did not like it at all. I mean, I did not like the way that it was absolutely shocking on Footy Classified when I saw the footage of Nick Hind, which was at the North Melbourne game, by the way, of Ben Rutten. He said, "Oh, come in, Nick, come here, sit next to me. I want to give you some advice." And he just did not want to give us stuff at all. Like, I have to say, it felt like then the players had checked out for the season, and had turned. I don't want to say it, but I have to turn their backs on Ben Rutten. It was absolutely disgraceful and disgusting from what I saw, and I just felt, what on earth is this? This didn't happen 12 months ago. What is this now? What has this club come to now? So, and in the last game, Ben Rutten got more respect from the Richmond players and former President Paul Brasher and now former CEO Xavier Campbell than the actual Essendon players. I mean, what has this club come to? I have no words about how this Rutten's, I call it saga, was handled by the club. I just feel like going over to the club and just saying, what the hell are you guys doing to this bloke? Well, and I hope they pay him every single cent of his contract now that he's been sacked. I hope they pay him every single fucking cent that they owe him. I hope they do. I hope they do. And sometimes during this saga, I just felt like going to Ben Rutten just going on behalf of all the Essendon supporters. We are sorry for how our club has handled your sacking. I just felt like that's what it felt like. That's what I felt like, really, and yeah, it just felt sickening to me, and the way they tried to get Clarko, which they didn't do because ultimately he chose North Melbourne, so that failed in the end. And then of course they tried, and then of course that eventually led to Xavier Campbell's resignation. Then they ended the CEO, which that lasted about not even a day because they sacked him because of some rights being what they weren't happy with his religion or something like that. All that and yeah, it was just unbelievable for me in my case, really, and yeah, so. I'm not going to go on any longer about this. So, one to lead this on was Mick Pop, who he is in his 70s, and he has been an Essendon supporter and member all his life. And I remember the day very well when I told him that Ben Rutten got the sack, and he said to me he was very, very, very disappointed because. And if I ask him now about it, and he would still say he's very, very, very disappointed in the way that they handled it. So that's all I can say, really. Mark out of 10. Let's just say it. Let's get no piss farming around here. 2 out of 10. Poor season. Piss poor season. I mean, It just felt like 2021 was a false dawn, and it felt like to me 2021 never happened, and and now we're back to this again, and what made matters worse was what I said about round 14 winning against St Kilda being the first actual win of the season. This is the what if part. What if Tex Walker had kicked that goal with 20 seconds left to win the game for Adelaide in round 4? What if that 8-goal last quarter against Hawthorn didn't happen? We would be looking at an Essendon side that would have gone winless in the whole first half of the season. That is even worse. Even worse. And I think the worst game I ever watched. I watched all of this game. I watched about 95% of this game, by the way, against Sydney at the SCG. It was pretty much the reflection of our year as a whole. I didn't have any hair left after that game. I was so frustrated. The way that Essendon were moving about, and also, and I was also frustrated. Not the first, and it wasn't the first, and wasn't the last time I was frustrated with this. Actually, their defense was absolutely shambles that night. Absolute shambles, and it was, and we thought that they turned over a new leaf when they beat Hawthorn. Turns out they didn't in the end. So mark out of 10, 2 out of 10. Now to the players, 2 players that really shine for them. I mean, there's probably more, but the first one, of course, is Peter Wright, the 2-meter Peter, the new Best and Fairest winner, who Pop and I have really taken to heart really since he joined Essendon. I mean, he only kicked 85 goals in 66 games in his 4 or 5 seasons at the Gold Coast Suns. From 2015 to 2019. It was technically 2020, but he didn't play at all in 2020. So yeah, then he joined Essendon, and that is now up to, he's kicked 82 goals in 43 games, at 1.9 goals per, almost 2 goals per game. Almost doubled how many goals he was getting at the Gold Coast Suns. He was kicking at the Gold Coast Suns. There was times where he was getting limited opportunities down at the Gold Coast Suns, so it just proved that this season he can be one of the top key forwards. I mean, the precursor to what was to come for Pete was, of course, that game last year when he kicked 7 against the Bulldogs. And I remember watching most of that game, and he was just unplayable. He was just unstoppable. Unstoppable, really. And that was what he could. And that was a sign. That was a sign that's what he can do at his very best. And if he puts a full season together, flash forward to 2022, and with the side being shit, he basically he kicked 53 goals, played all 22 games this year, kicked 53 goals. Kicked 2.4 goals per game, and of course won the Best and Fairest, as I said earlier. So a very good season for 2-meter Peter. And if he's kicking 53 goals in 22 games for a side that finished 15th on the ladder, and he was basically the sole he's basically the sole key forward, because somebody would say, oh, what about Jake Stringer? But they play him mostly in the stoppages or in the center circle most of the time. So yeah, and with the inclusion of Sam Wiedemann, I think that connection between him and Pete will definitely take some of the pressure off for 2-meter Peter, and if we're a pretty decent side, I'll say pretty decent, I say finished around 11th to 13th or 14th, 11th to 13th or something like that. Then he expecting to kick more goals. No doubt about it for the Bombers, really. Next up, the last player I want to talk about is Dylan Shield. He at 22. Pretty much a road back. 2021 it was an injury-ravaged season for him. And he was replaced in his role by Darcy Parish. Obviously, he had a career best season. This year, when Parish was out a little bit for a little bit of the season mid-year, he stepped into that role and he was back to his best most of the time. Averaged 22.9 touches a game, 9.8 just contested possessions a game, 9.9 kicks per game, which is average, according to AFL.com.au. Average 6.1 clearances per game, which is the 10th best average in the AFL. 315.7 metres gained per game and 5.4 scoring involvements per game. So I don't know what Brad Scott's going to do with the midfield that we have. Of course, we've got the likes of Merritt, Parish, Shield. I don't think they're going to add in McGrath into this midfield because I think he's more wanting him to play like he was at the start of his career, play half back. And then of course if you add Will Setterfield to that list, who we also got in the trade period, then he's got we got a lot of midfielders at our disposal. So it's interesting to see what our midfield connection really is. So I think for me, Shield is still a long way. Still is a long way to where he should be. But I think he's really did prove that he's really still starting to come back as one of the prime midfielders in the competition, mostly this season. Finally, under pressure, downright, it's everybody inside the club. It's just unbelievable, really. How much of a saga this has been this year. From the poor on-field performances to the changing of the CEO, change of president, and then of course, everything being being in a toxic environment. Josh Marnie and Adrian Dodoro, that relationship, from what I hear, at some point in the year turned toxic. It was just unbelievable, really, and it's just going to be a long way back here for Essendon. And this marks, of course, this year marks 10 years since the whole drug saga happened, and now this, of course, we're officially left it behind. We're almost like, I know we're never going to get rid of the drug saga. It's going to be with us for the rest of our lives. This drug saga, it's always going to be with us. But I think it's time to move on from that. I think officially time to move on from that, and trying to be successful again. And Dave Burren wants that, but he hasn't had a good start, really. And speaking about Dave Barham, I think the one thing I don't mention is I remember one episode on Footy Classified. I think it was after when Rutten got the sack. They showed a graphic during that show, that night. About the board, about one side of the board members, one side being Paul Brasho and his board members, and Dave Barham and his board members. I looked across at Paul Brasher, and there was some great Essendon people and great Essendon champions and legends of the game. Guys like Simon Madden, Sean Wellman, the like. All these guys have been champions for a long time and know Essendon inside out. Then I looked across at Dave Barham, and the only thing I went was, who the hell are these people? Like, I've never heard of them. Do they even know a thing about football? That's what I thought. That was my instant thought, is who the hell are these guys? I've never heard of them. I'm not into the politics and stuff like that of a footy club. I don't know who these are. So it almost screams out to me of like, I don't know what's gonna happen here. So I think for me, as I said, Dave Barham, I think the way that I remember the interview that he had after it was revealed they were going to try to get Clarko. It was very poor. I mean, he was trying to dodge every question really, and it felt like he was trying to dodge all the questions to do with Rutten and yeah. So as I said earlier, I thought it was the right decision for them to sack Ben Rutten. It was the way they did it, which it doesn't suit well with me. So all the pressure is inside the club to change this around. And I'm glad that they did this external review because this mediocrity has gone on long enough. I'm not the only one who's an Essendon supporter. I've got cousins that are little, not little, but they're about 10 or 11 years of age. I don't want them to basically live through what me and me pop's done throughout this whole. I want success for the Essendon Football Club. So too, so many others as well who are teenagers that are Essendon members and supporters. They want to see their side be successful, and if this external review, I heard that it ruffled feathers apparently. This external review, but if it means that if it's our first step towards success, towards future success of the Essendon Football Club, then so be it. Because I've had enough of the Essendon mediocrity in the last 10 years. I just had enough of it. And for Brad Scott to come out and say that we need patience. I mean, I'm sorry to say this, but how patient can we get? We haven't won a final for 18 years. We haven't won a final for 18 years. And you're calling us to be patient. And the last time anybody said that was Worsfold. And yeah. And one last thing that I want to leave on before this video ends. I want the players to stop talking out of their ass. That was a theme through not only throughout 1 week, a fortnight. It happened throughout the entirety of their season. And it happens all the time. In 2020, it was John Worsfold that was talking out of his backside most of the time. And this year, it's different. It's the players that are talking out of their backsides. I mean, and it just, some people have said, talk about the next captain. Some will say it's Merritt. Some will say it's McGrath. Some people will say it's Parrish. The thing is, I want a captain that doesn't talk out of their ass. That's the thing. And I think for me, I want a captain that talks the talk and then backs it up on the field. In terms of Merritt and McGrath, they don't possess that. All they possess is this, but not this. Not that. That's not what they do. And you know what? If anybody would ask me who do you think, if you were at the club, who would you choose as the next captain? This would be a left field pick. I think this guy. I'm just gonna say it. I think Jordan Ridley would be a great captain because from what I heard, he doesn't talk out of his backside. He looks like a guy that would talk the talk in the media and then deliver it out on the field. He gives it, and I know he's the sole hand in that poor freaking defense of that is that poor shit that is the Essendon defense. But at least I would be given a captain that delivers out on the field. Not someone like Merritt or McGrath that basically talks out of their backside, especially McGrath. He's the one that started it all, by the way. He's the one that started it all with all the stuff about, we need to rectify about stuff that is not AFL standard, blah blah blah, and then the next week they ended up getting beaten. I think that was after the Adelaide game which they won, by the way. And then they ended up winning, and then they ended up getting beaten by Fremantle by a tune of 9 goals. What does that tell you? So just to round it off here, Essendon, 8th position, finished in 15th, finished in 8th last year, then tumbled down to 15th. And whatever the experts are saying, whatever anybody inside that football club is saying about the team, I am for 110% not gonna believe it until round 1. Until round 1, I'm not believing anything from anybody inside that 4 walls of that football club until round 1. Then if whatever they say comes true at round 1, then I'll consider believing it. Because I've done this a lot of times where I believe in it, and then basically get to round 1 and we do shithouse. So that's all I'm gonna say, really. So that's the end of this video. Like this video, share this video to anybody, please, who is a fellow Essendon supporter or member. Comment down below. Do you agree with what I said about the football club? And how do you think Essendon's going to go in 2023? And one last thing, somewhere down there, press the big red button which is labeled subscribe. But until next time, guys, I'll see you guys later, and wherever you may be, may the sun or the moon shine on you. It wasn't definitely freaking shining on Essendon in 2022.